Hello and welcome to show number 2 of Your Life Starts Today, February the 22nd, 2013. In show number 2, we talk about miracles, manifesting, dreams, desire and intention, and also support systems and how to stay level-headed when everyone else around you is going crazy. We split this week's show up into 2 parts because we recorded for quite a while. So the show will be at roughly 45 minutes long and followed next week by part 2. Mercury being retrograde this week, we had no short supply of technical errors while we were recording this show. One of our microphones decided to stop working, so Johnny and myself had to share one mic. So I'm doing my best to make it sound like there was no technical issue. Bear with us, and next week, fingers crossed, we'll be back to normal.
From my experience, especially with being involved with the Intenders group, which is what I was just kind of starting a new group this week, talking about earlier, that it's not about desiring something, because it's interesting the way we feel things. To desire would mean that you don't have it. And that creates an intention or puts an energy out there that you're not actually already embodying this energy of this thing that you want to attract to you, whether it's a house or a job or a partner. And the bottom line is, when you feel fulfilled and you love yourself, or you feel abundant, or whatever it is that you should recategorize it from desire to saying that I am already fulfilled, then you will attract it to you. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sometimes you can have a desire, but to let the outcome go, to let go of the outcome of that thought is one of the major keys.
Well, that's exactly kind of what I'm saying along the lines of manifestation. Is it's a catch-22 about letting go. To let go would mean that you're no longer attached, meaning you're no longer in need or desire, that you let go believing. And that's where the miracle, going back to what we're talking about tonight, is the miracle comes on faith. And that's been a long-known tradition in the history of faith, if you will. And the belief that you already have this, or that it will show itself in the perfect time, in alignment with all that is right and perfect in the world, then you let it go and it comes to you at the perfect time, when it is going to happen in the highest and best way. And that's the thing about, people not seeing their intention manifest immediately. Well, there's a lot of variables to consider so that it's in alignment for everyone, so everyone experiences a miracle, that it's not just something that we manifest instantly. So the faith part is knowing that it's already happening or has happened, but it's just allowing in third dimension for us physically to catch up to that intention.
Yeah, I think also that having faith is almost like that magic little wand that almost gives you permission to set the wheels of the universe into motion, to put it in your path and make it so.
I always say the universe is like Burger King. Not that I'm promoting Burger King food, but when you go to Burger King and you pull up at the window, you don't just pull up and go, I'm hungry, because you're not going to get anything. You pull up to the window and you're very specific about your order. You want a large soda. You want a hamburger with no pickle. You want a large fry. So the universe is the same way. People always say, what am I supposed to do? Or, I want my life to get better, but I think you have to have a specific focus of what does better mean to you. So the universe is like Burger King. You have to give it your order. But you also then don't drive into Burger King kitchen and make your own meal.
Right.
You place your order and then you wait for Burger King to hand it to you. So the universe works the same way. You place your intent of what you want, and then you wait for the universe to provide it. And that's where the letting go part comes in. Mm-hmm. So you can't be so specific, and that's the catch-22. You can't be so specific and say, I want that job at ABC company because maybe the job at XY company is really much better for you. Right. So you say, I want a job where I feel appreciated. I want a job where there's going to be growth opportunities for me. I want a job where I like my coworkers, whatever it is for you. Mm-hmm. And then you let it be. And I think that's what you're talking about with the faith, because then if you put that intent out there and all you're focusing on is I want that job at ABC and you don't get it, now people go, oh, see, it's not working. But that might not be what's best for you.
Right. That's very true. So what comes to mind is creating the essence or stating the essence of what you want.
Exactly.
So you say, I want a job that I'm going to be happy and well paid.
Exactly.
And not limit it, because the universe is unlimited. And yes, there are even sometimes that we think that someone is right for us and we say we want that person, right. But really what we need to do is state all the characteristics or attributes as much as we want in detail, but not put that on one particular person. Allow the universe to draw that to you. And then just know that will come to you at the perfect time when it's supposed to happen, and letting it go, which is what Andrew was saying before, because letting go is releasing. It's like I remember the saying about an open hand holds more water than a closed fist. It's because you're open to possibility rather than holding on so tight to your vision of what you think you want. But in essence, when you do that, it gives the universe a lot of ability to create, or a lot of options to create exactly what you want. And a lot of times those things are better because there's a lot of things that they see, meaning angels or God or whatever you believe in, will manifest this. They'll see things that you didn't know about. So they'll fill in the blanks, making it better and higher than anything you could have ever imagined in your conscious mind. And the conscious mind does get in the way of this, but letting that go and listening to the heart. I always believe in the heart. That's where I think that you're really truly guided rather than using your head.
Yeah, I think when you specify too much and you stay strong to that urge or that wish or that belief, when things don't go to your plan, that's when you can get a little bit belligerent or say to the universe, why or why me? But all along, you're not realizing that you're actually, by doing that, you're sidestepping something fantastic that was actually on your way, because you're actually creating roadblocks by saying, damn it, I wanted this or I wanted that. When it wasn't necessarily the greatest for you or the greatest for your path. And I can count many instances in my life where that's been the case.
I think too, it's almost like another LA analogy. Like you're reading a book and you're in a particular chapter, and that chapter is not a great chapter. So maybe you're at a point in your life that's not great, but the universe has the whole collection of books. So the universe is already chapters ahead of you, and it already knows how great your life is going to turn out. But you're just in that chapter and you only have that amount of information. So again, that's where the leap of faith comes in, because you're just looking at what your experience is at the moment. And a lot of people get so caught up in that moment of that drama instead of taking a step back and going, okay, this is just one chapter that I'm in. I'm just going to take that leap of faith and keep reading to the next chapter. Too many people stop reading at that moment and forever get stuck in that negative chapter.
Yeah, I think many people paint themselves into a corner in their minds. I think people are trapped in relationships. I think people are trapped in jobs, in scenarios really that they wish they could be outside of, but it's too scary to make that move. It's too scary to make that jump because they're familiar with the pain of where they are, but they're not sure how painful it is going to actually make that move. And I think you need to have faith to step back from the situation and just realize, if you're in a place of work or if you're in a relationship that really is painful, stop. Take a step back and just really reevaluate the situation you're not going to die. This is something that I think it's a case of feeling the fear, but doing it anyway. To make that change that needs to be made in order for you to attain your goals, but also letting go so that the universe can fill in the blanks for you.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think has been my biggest limitation is my own self. The universe is ever expanding, and it is infinite as it is now, and which sounds contradictory, but basically, it's more than we can fathom ever. So it's our own consciousness, our own beliefs that limit the unlimited, because we're learning how to manifest things on our level where we're at today. But it always gets better, or as we grow and our intentions get better, the miracles and the manifestations get better. And we learn from that. We learn how to manifest each time from our experiences. And so as far as our ability, to manifest miracles is really just our own shortcomings. And unfortunately, we're in a world that, it's interesting we're having this conversation about unlimited potential and manifesting miracles. And that is not a daily common topic or occurrence or belief. Mm-hmm. A lot of people believe in it being hard and limited, and they only believe in what they see. And it's not necessarily a reality supported, but it's very interesting, especially with this workshop that's coming up. I think it's really time to break open that level of consciousness, because really we are working on an old Newtonian, Isaac Newton, the matter, what you see, and gravity and like that. When we've already scientifically bypass that with Einstein in equals mc squared. Everything is energy, but our consciousness is still limited to old beliefs that aren't even caught up to Einstein, which is like 100 years ago now. So we're already 100 years past. It just takes that long for consciousness and for it to change on a global level. And individuals have passed, they understand it and grasp it where they're at. But I think mass consciousness out there in the world doesn't necessarily reflect reality or the truth, which is everything is energy. And it is connected with how we manifest is what our reality becomes.
More so this year for me, I've had some absolutely incredible experiences whereby I have subconsciously, on the tip of my tongue and in the back recesses of my mind, started to think about, I'm going to go switch on that light, or I would like light, or I want this program to open, or I need to switch off this light. And I'm not talking like one of these lamps that just you touch and they turn on, so any electrical impulse would turn them on or off. I'm talking physical light switches. I've actually had where I knew the kitchen light was on, I was going back to switch it off, and when I get there, I could tell that I thought about it in a different sort of way, and it was almost an intention of actually doing it rather than, I need to go back and just switch off the light. I was thinking about it in a different way altogether. And then when I did actually get back, the light was already off, or the light was already on. And enough instances like that have taken place where I have seen the intention in the right circumstances, in the right time, can actually manifest instantly. But there's just enough that kicks in that makes you think, wait a minute, did I turn it off? Did I turn it on? You know, again, in the darkest recesses of your mind that you did not do it. But because it is now switched off, or because it now is switched on, or the application opened up on your computer without you doing a thing, it makes you second guess yourself. And I think that's part of the trick to it all, is to find that place to intend, or find that place to create. And then from that moment on, truly, it's let go. The outcome you're not worried about. It was more of a pure, from your heart intention.
Perhaps some time travel going on there.
I think what blocks all of that sometimes is like the negative self-talk, because I don't think people really connect with the power of the mind. And so many times we talk about manifesting in a positive way, but I always tell people you have to watch your thoughts, because you can manifest the negative too. If that's, I see it all the time with people with money. If they're obsessing about not having money, there's just more money going out the door. Where when you let that thought go and you're not obsessing about it all day long, then the money comes in. So I think the negative thoughts are actually block the flow of energy.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah, and that goes back to the letting go, which is what we were talking about before. If you're holding on too tightly, it's sending out an energy that you don't have that, which means basically it's translated without bias, without interpretation other than its direct interpretation, which is I don't have this. I need this, I need it. So if you keep saying I need money, and you continue to affirm that, then guess what reality you're going to have? You're going to have the reality that you're always going to need money, which means you're always in a state of shortage. As opposed to, which is kind of interesting, another thing about miracles, not just faith, but the real power of manifestation and happiness, if you will, is just a state of gratitude. Being completely grateful for what you do have in your life. Maybe not everything, but what you focus on. Like, let's say out of 10 things in a day, 9 of them are things you'd like to change because either it's money or stress or, not enough time or whatever. Those are the things you're focused on. But there was one thing out of those 10 things that was absolutely beautiful, that you would love to have more in your life. Well, if you're grateful for that, if you're grateful for and always finding something to be grateful for, then you start focusing on that. It goes back to this old Indian proverb, the little story about the Indian.
Oh, are you going to tell the wolf story?
Oh, I love the wolf story. Did I take that? Would you want to tell it? Would you like to tell it?
You can tell it. I
love
this story.
And there's a few different, slightly different versions.
Before
but basically,
you tell this story, can I just interrupt you?
Sure.
Last year, I was going to visit a friend in Texas, and it was just like a last-minute trip. So I get on the plane, and I have the middle seat, which I always try to get the seat by the window because it was last minute. I couldn't pick my seat. So I sit down in the middle, and to the right of me sits this gentleman who was probably like in his late 60s, very well dressed, very just relaxed kind of energy. To the left of me sits this totally decked out, woman, beautiful. The stress level on this woman, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. So now we're on this 5-hour flight, and I start talking to the gentleman to my right. And he did, I can't remember how he explained what he did, but basically he had some big fancy word for it. But basically he works for a very large company, and when people are relocated, it's kind of his job to get them involved in the community and help them with this transference, or whatever you want to call it, this when they transfer. So it was funny because as we started talking, a lot of the things and approaches that he uses to help these people are very similar to what I do as a psychic, helping people to see their options, helping them to not focus on the negative, focus on the positive. So long story short, we got into the most amazing 5-hour nonstop conversation. To the left of me was Miss Happiness, who was complaining about everything, fidgeting in her seat the whole time, complaining to the stewardesses. So he's the one that he goes, oh my God, I have a fabulous story that you would love. And he told me the story that you're going to tell us in a minute.
Oh, wow.
And it was funny because as the flight ended, we were talking about reality and perception. And I started laughing, and I said to him, yeah, this is a perfect example, because when I get off the plane today and I meet my friend, I'm going to tell her that I met the most amazing gentleman that was so insightful and so spiritual, and we had the most amazing conversation, and it was one of the best flights I've ever had. I go, the woman to the left of me is going to get off the plane and go, I sat next to these two people that didn't shut up the whole time. So it was like, which one was really the reality, the
Right.
good flight or the bad flight?
Right.
So, but this is one of my favorite stories.
Yeah, the the way the story goes is I don't remember if it was the father or the grandfather was going saying to the son or grandson about the two wolves that live inside of everyone, and the one wolf is about happiness and love and contentment and peace, and the other one is about anger and fear and negativity. And they would fight, and there was between the two of them, the grandson asked, well, which one would win? And he said, the one that you feed.
Yeah.
And so it's what you focus on is what you feed inside of you. And I want to take that to another
That is
level
so
that
powerful.
is so amazing with
Yeah.
that, because that is based on science now.
Right.
There is a movie called What the Bleep Do You Know? And it is one of the phenomenal,
Love
you can get
it.
an 8-hour, did you see how far down the rabbit hole you really want to go?
Yeah.
It's like 8 hours or so, but there's segments of it. So incredible. And it talks about biology, psychology, spirituality, and how they're combined. That literally the feelings that you have, the way you feel, trigger thoughts in your brain. And the thoughts actually create a hormone or protein, a chemical in your brain that then goes into your bloodstream. Well, what it is your cells have these receptors, and when that hormone is released, that protein or that chemical will find the receptor on the cell. Well, when the cell divides, it creates twice as many of those receptors because it's receiving that protein. So the more, let's say, for instance, you focus on negativity, which releases what? Cortisol and all this other, stressful chemicals, okay? Well, when the cells divide, it creates twice as many receptors as the last generation. So your brain is triggered to literally produce more of that chemical. So if you're focused on negativity, you're going to keep building and building and building, where your cells keep dividing 2, 4, 8, 16 of these receptors, and it's going to keep building this chemical. Now, on the other side of it, we know like serotonin, is a very happy kind of hormone. And the more happy, the more your emotions are triggered, the more the serotonin is triggered to be released. So your cells divide with these receptors with serotonin. So therefore, you literally become what you think. And that is a biological fact.
Right.
They have shown that this is so true. So the fact is that you can change physically, you can change emotionally, and you can change your life. And I know that's a lot to cover, but what comes to mind is there were actually, and I don't remember who it was, but just this past week, somebody was referring to like a little short movie that they did. Is kind of like one of those experiments. And what they did was they took like a $5 bill and stuck it on a sidewalk. And they were filming it just from a distance that nobody knew. And there was someone that went by that was totally in their head, completely stressed, had that tunnel vision. I think that they lived in an apartment building, and they went upstairs and they never saw the $5 bill. And then here comes this other guy that's really happy, optimist, looking around, looking at the sky, and he finds the $5 bill and picks it up and puts it in his pocket, right? And so they go back and they said, did you know you were being filmed? Of course they didn't. But see, in other words, that's just like another way of how we influence the reality or perception around us, that if we're not open and believing and living in the moment, that we can literally miss opportunities to us. So there's so many dynamics to the, and it is complicated, I know, but in a way, after a while, it does get easier. By basic essentials are, find the good, the gratitude in anything. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your circumstances are. There's one thing that, and even if it's as fundamental, is that you are alive. That in itself, we see life every day, and it is not considered a miracle when it really is. The life itself, the more you know, the more miraculous that life itself becomes, because you realize it's not just a chance, that there was something that very special to life in itself. And when you encompass that and really hold that in your heart, everything becomes a miracle.
It's funny. I was in an office today, and they had the TV on, and I never watch TV, but they had The Price is Right on, and this guy, got called up, and he won, so he got to do one little contest or whatever. So they had Charles Barkley on today, and he was helping the contestants, and then whatever money they won, they were going to donate the same amount to charity. So this guy had to win these he had to roll these giant like dice things. So he had to win. He started with 2 of them, and then he could win 3 more so that he had these extra rolls. So now he wins the extra rolls, and he was just so positive. You could just tell there was not a doubt in his mind that he was winning, right? And his prize was a car. So now he wins the 2 extra rolls. So he goes up there, he rolls the first time, and he gets the dice. You had to get 5 cars. So he rolls the dice, and he gets 1 car. He rolls the second time, and he now has 2 cars. So now he only has 1 roll left, and he needs 3 cars. But on the other side of the dice is money. So he can either walk away with a couple of $1,000s, or he could take his last roll, but he needs 3 more cars to show up. So everybody's like telling him, like, don't roll, don't roll. And you could just see on his face that there was not a doubt in his mind. And even Charles Barkley was teasing him. He's like, as your financial advisor, I'm advising you to take the money and not roll these dice again, because there's no way this is happening. You could see in his face, he rolled these freaking dice, and he got 3 more cars, and he won. And you could, like, everybody was just shocked. But I'm watching it, and I just knew. You could just tell there was not a doubt in his mind that this was going to happen.
Because you have that power individually. You can manifest things. There are times when I've wondered, and I'm seeing it more and more with the shift that we're going to be talking about at Your Life Starts Today, that the manifestation is so powerful and instant that, it just winds up that you can. There are times I'm sitting in my life, and I'm just thinking about something, and darn it, it's right there. And I can't even believe how that I'm like, how could this have happened so instantaneously? And there is a whole thing about being in the right place at the right time, and luck favors the prepared and all that. But no, I'm talking about, like, one time I remember I wanted this job really bad, and I wanted to relocate, and I wound up like getting so frustrated waiting for this call, waiting to hear back on it, that I sat there and I like hit my fist on the table saying, and the phone rang that very second, and I was like, what in the world, how did I manifest that? Like, am I just shifting to a whole other reality here, or is this something that is just coincidental? And I guess it depends on how you look at it, but when it happens over and over, it's almost like what you were saying before about the light switches already being off. So basically you don't even have to get up, you just let them all turn off.
It's funny because I'm like gonna go away for a few days, so I'm going away with a friend of mine, and their time frame is kind of limited. So we plan this just quick little trip, and we're getting there, and then like 2 days later, the day that we leave, the flight is really early in the morning. So I kept saying in my head, I just wish we could have like the last day, like the full day. Like, who wants to, fly? You only have a day and a half. Like, that stinks. So all week long, I kept thinking, God, it would be so much better if we just left like later on at night. But I didn't try to do anything. I just had the thought in my head, oh, I would just so love to be able to get this extra day. And I kid you not, the next day my friend calls me and goes, listen, I want to run this past you. If we leave from a different airport, we can fly out earlier. And then on the last day, we don't have to come home till nighttime. And I was like, oh my God, that's like exactly what I was thinking, but I hadn't said it out loud. Then I was joking around because I said, I just want to go and get away for a few days where the phones aren't ringing and I could just relax and de-stress. So 2 days later, we go out to dinner to plan this trip, and my friend says to me, I hope you realize that because you're out of the States now, if you don't have international service, your cell phone is going to be like $1 gazillion if you don't have the international. So I'm talking to my family, and I said, do we have like international? Do you guys have international? Like this, we all have the same plan. So they go, oh no, you can't even turn your phone on, because even if you turn your phone on and you don't make a call, if people are texting you, you'll get the bill. So my family goes, well, you don't need to have your phone, we're not going to call you unless it's an emergency. So I said to them, when I get there, I'll email you from the hotel so you have the emergency contact information. But other than that, I'm not even turning my phone on. So the next morning I woke up and I thought, wow, look how I manifested that. Nobody can even get in touch with me, and I don't have a phone. So it's like, it's just these funny things sometimes that you're thinking about that you put out there, and they just like fall right into place without any effort.
Yeah, well, that's just exactly what I'm talking about. You had a thought, you put it out there, you let it go. It's just like you place your order at Burger King, if I'm going to take it. You showed up at the drive-up window, and there's a bag. Well, what's in it?
Exactly.
Well, it happens to be what you ordered. But in the meantime, what were you doing? You were checking your cell phone, you were adjusting your radio, you were getting your money out, you were planning all these things.
Right.
But in the end, you wound up with exactly what you ordered, at least at the ideal
And you weren't
drive-through.
going into the kitchen and fixing your own dinner. And I think that's where people have the problem.
You detach.
You would not, and I say this to clients all the time, my Burger King analogy, and I always say to them, do you go in the kitchen and cook your hamburger? And they laugh because it sounds so incredibly ridiculous. But that's exactly what we do in life. We try to go into the kitchen and make the meal, and you can't do that. You have to put your order in, put your intent out, and then let it unfold, because there's timing of things and there's manifesting of it all works together.
Yeah, I think I think the universe in general, the world in general right now is, especially with today's technology, the internet, TV, everything is now. You place your order, you get it straight away.
Very good point.
And that ties over to everything else in your life. So you've just started a relationship. Next thing you know, she's talking about when you're going to get a wedding ring. Or, or whatever it might be. So when am I going to get my pay raise? Or, instead of you're in it and you let go and you're just enjoying it. So these two are in fits right now. Is that what happened to you if I stumbled on something?
Oh, Lord.
Well, I was thinking he could be the one wanting the wedding ring as well, But I'm thinking the kind of calls or feedback you're going to get on that one, Andrew. I'm glad that was Andrew Jones, not Johnny Angel, that said that comment. There's nothing wrong with instant love. I believe. And
just to be clear, when Lisa Ann hears marriage talk, she flees very quickly. That's too funny.
That's great.
No, but it's true though. I think that is a big part of it. I think technology has really made us, I call it the instant gratification society.
Well, and expanding on that, we are creating that. That is the reality that we are creating mass consciously as well as individually. We believe and want things faster. And what's very interesting is that I was introduced to the 13 moon calendar, which is natural time, but it's all based on the Mayan calendar system. There's all these strange words and terms that break it up, baktuns and all this other, but they're basically set on cycles and ages. Like certain ages last certain periods of time, and they're in these cycles. Well, each cycle, the next cycle after it, speeds up 10 times faster than the previous cycle. So we had this age that took a long time to develop, but let's go back just a couple of ages. And one was during the industrial age. Things really exponentially started. That's where the factories came about, and you still had workers that would do it. And then came after that the computer age. That was but we just ended that next era, broken up, thankfully, by the Mayan calendar, so we can understand a little bit more, that now we're going 10 times faster than the computer age. So the computer age was 10 times faster than the industrial. So what does that mean? How can you be 10 times faster than the computer when that is instantaneous across the world? Well, you're ahead of it. It's like we don't need these mechanisms to know that there is information coming to us instantaneously through our own receivers, which is our brain. And so what it becomes like, we can get into this in another segment, but about the grid and this information, that all of this stuff is imprinted and that it's instantaneous, that we can access information. But it is proven by science. Like, scientists have taken, say, a proton and split it into two, and what you do to, even if it's 10,000 miles away, what you do to the one, it happens over here at the same time to the other. And so this is how there is no such time and space. There's no such thing as time and space. So this is what Einstein, back to what I was saying before about the us catching up to the consciousness of even what Einstein knew.
It was said many years ago that the fastest thing that was out there, the fastest measurable thing of substance that could be measured, was light. The speed of light was the fastest speed that there was, purely because they said that the closer you got to the speed of light, the bigger the mass you became. So you would actually become the actual entire mass of the universe, when in fact they're starting to think that the opposite is true, so that the closer you get to the speed of light, the less mass you are. Scientists have now worked out that if you take that proton, you split it, you send one part 1,000,000 miles one way, and you send another part 1,000,000 miles the opposite way, when something happens to the proton at one end, it actually happens exactly instantly at the very same time to the atom proton at exactly the same instance. So there's no speed of light, there is instant reaction, and what they're leaning toward is connected via this source field, the unified field, everything that connects us all, that we feed into and we feed from, that is the source of all. And some people are actually starting to think that itself is gravity, that we don't actually understand gravity in all of its forms. Another huge part of the equation is momentum. To have momentum in your thoughts, to have momentum in your actions. Because when you actually build on that momentum, it's harder to stop. It's easier to keep going. And it's harder to get going from a standstill. And again, the scientists have actually shown there's something crazy going on. Some people have found that when you get a rotary motor and it's just rotating at very high speeds, and you get that running up for a while, that it builds up some sort of internal force that you cannot see, a momentum of sorts. Now, let's say the motor is standing at a standstill and it takes 100% effort to get it running to full speed. Then once it's running at full speed, it takes perhaps 2% worth of energy just to maintain that full speed. So now you have a motor running quite happily. If you were to stop that motor instantly from perhaps the 18,000 RPMs that it was running, and it stops to an instant stop, if you start that motor again within 10 seconds, there is an internal invisible force that is still rotating, but it only takes 10% of the original energy to get that motor back up and running to the 18,000 RPM, as long as you do it within the first 10 seconds. If you wait 15 or 20 seconds, it then takes, because the internal energy that was there has dissipated, it then takes 100% worth of effort to get that motor back up and running to 18,000 RPM. But again, if you start it within the first 10 seconds, there's something there that is rotating, and it takes much less physical force to get that motor running back up to the speed that it was. And I think we're made that way. I think that, continue the daily good thoughts, to keep building on those intentions, to keep going to the gym, to keep up your healthy eating, because it's easier to keep it up once it's going than when you have stopped, you're not doing it anymore, and you want to start it back up, which directly explains my workout regime lately.
I think one of the things that would probably be helpful to people too is tips on how they can keep that momentum going, because it's always good to, everybody always grasps the concept of positivity and, focusing on manifesting, but then we all have experiences where things just go awry sometimes. So how do you keep that positive energy when you have a lot of negative things going on? So maybe we can give some tips on, you've gotten the concept of keeping positive, you understand the concept of manifesting, but then what do you do when you first come across that disaster that's happening?
Well, that's a really great point. And actually, along those lines, one of the things that I've learned for myself and see or have learned is that you wind up creating your reality to such an extent that every thought, every action does create your future based on what you're doing today. And there is some lagging of your old beliefs still carrying on when you change your mind and decide to be positive. And so you're still going to see some of the old manifesting itself. So you're ahead of your reality. In other words, manifestations happen slower than our thoughts, at least in the past. And it's starting to really get where they're becoming instantaneous, like we were saying before, like the miracles that happen. But really, to take this to where most people are at, or where it's been going, is that there's a lag time between changing your mind of being constantly positive or trying to maintain positivity. But it goes back to that wolf. That wolf that's been starving, if it depends on where it's at. If you haven't fed this thing, and this poor thing is like been completely weakened and is just skin and bones, and it has terrible, looking, hair and hide and all that, it's going to take longer to nurture it back to this place. It's not for you to think about it in that way. The thing is to maintain a positive attitude no matter what. Find the gratitude in the moment, and always find that from here in and forward. And the only thing that might look like an illusion that it's not happening is because the universe does work in seasons or ebbs and flows. I mean, we live here in the Northeast, and there's 4 seasons. Nature is in balance with those seasons. We need to realize that we are a part of that. We are not separate from that. We'd like to believe we're separate from that, but our life actually reflects a lot of what's going on in these seasons. And therefore, it's not perpetual motion. Nothing in nature is in perpetual motion. But everything is as it should be. And the more you trust that in every moment, that everything is exactly perfect, and maintain that positive thing, I think that's what changes. That's the hurdle. That's keeping it positive and consistent by no matter what it's giving you. Like, a lot of times they'll talk about that as the test. Like, we're being tested, or faith is being tested, or, a lot of times people think, well, why? I've changed my attitude, I've changed, the type of person I am. Why are these bad things still happening to me, so to speak? There is karma a little bit, which I believe you have to learn your lessons, and then but there is forgiveness as well, and mainly we have to forgive ourselves, which we'll talk about in another segment as well. But the thing is that if you maintain a positive attitude no matter what is given, and believe that it's just part of the process, that there's maybe something you need to be looking at within yourself, it does get easier, but the manifestation becomes more consistent. So when you reach a certain place, you'll realize that you've made that turn, and it does get a lot easier. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, those are good points. I also think that for me, for the last year especially, I've always had this very strong spiritual element about me. I've been learning, I've been climbing up 3 rungs of the ladder and falling back 2, climbing up 3, falling back 2. And for me, the last year, I created and if you hear in the background, there's wine being poured.
I manifested a glass of wine. I was thinking wine,
I was trying
and
to
it
be
was
so
there.
quiet.
Suave. I'll do a little bit. Thank you. So one of the things that, I've come to realize this past year is having people to share this with, being able to talk openly with people about this stuff. Because, vocal and thought processes are such powerful, vibrational, magical spells almost to the universe. And when you actually are able to put it out there to the universe in either spoken word or giving yourself time to actually think about these elements. And I did that. I created a private, actually initially it wasn't a private Facebook group. It was a Facebook group. And we had 2 or 3 people that were partaking, and it was fun. But a lot of people were not joining in, and it was because they did not want to be ridiculed by other people, family, friends, and what have you. So I made the group private. And when I did, I had a much more of a solid core of people kicking in and partaking in the conversation. They felt more open and free, and they weren't ridiculed, which then kind of spilled over onto everyone else, and then everyone else could see that their thoughts were not crazy, their thoughts were not silly. Other than that, I think if you can cut out the negative people from your life, if you can really sit down and have a look at
that's a whole show in itself.
Yeah, it's just who deserves to be in your life, who is holding you back, and it may even be your partner, and it may even be yourself holding you back, just because you were with someone that didn't give you, or that very special side of you, that time of day to breathe and grow.
I want to just mention too, when I had heard the wolf story, it was the grandfather talking to the grandson. Cheers.
Cheers.
And he said that I have these two wolves inside of me, and every day they go to war. And I've always kept that visual of the wolves is not something that's outside of myself, but it's something inside of me that every day you have to contend with. Those wolves never go away, and it's which one you feed, like you said. But I know for me, I always tell people, I think that one of the places people get stuck is they think, okay, once I learn all of this and I understand about positive thoughts and I learn about manifesting, that nothing's ever going to go wrong. But we're here to learn and grow. So you're always going to have challenges, as I like to call them. And I think where people get stuck is they don't always honor their emotions. So I have a 24-hour rule that I talk about all the time. When bad things happen, I give myself 24-hour, I call it the 24-hour pity party day, where I will literally stay in my pajamas all day.
Get out the ice cream.
Yep. I will not answer the phone. The wine. I give myself 24 hours to really process the emotions of how I'm feeling, whether I've been disappointed, whether I've been hurt, whether I'm angry. But before I go to bed that night, I do have a little conversation with myself and I say, okay, this stunk and this wasn't fair or this was hurtful or whatever it was. But tomorrow's a new day, and tomorrow when I get up, I'm not giving it any more of my focus, because I think a very valuable piece to this puzzle is you can't stuff your emotions away. When bad things happen, when hurtful things happen, when people disappoint you, you have to acknowledge your emotions, but not get stuck in them. Absolutely. So you need to allow yourself a processing time, but you can't now wear that bad thing as a badge where 2 years later, you're still going back to it. Yeah. So take the time to process. I like 24 hours. And then, whatever you set for yourself, process your emotions, honor them, but don't get stuck in them.
Wow. So fantastic first part of show number 2. Like I said, this show is quite long, so I decided instead of putting up an hour and a half worth of talk, although I'm sure some of you would love that, I don't want to overstay our welcome with the rest of you that, half hour or 3/4 of an hour tops is enough. So there you go, part 1 of show number 2. Tune in probably Wednesday of next week, and you can get show number 2. So go to yourlifestartstoday.com/podcast, and on the right hand side you can subscribe to the show. Thank you very much for listening, and tune in same time next week. This is Andrew, Psychic Lisa Ann, and Johnny Angel saying goodbye for now. Your life starts today.
Hi, I'm Johnny Angel, and I just wanted to let you know a little bit about myself. I am a psychic medium, paranormal investigator, writer, teacher, and Reiki master, healer. It's my pleasure to be a part of this podcast and to be able to have a forum to talk with all of you.
Hi everyone, I'm Psychic Lisa Ann, and I am the owner of Spirit Quest Healing Center. I am happily celebrating my 14th year this year. I am also a psychic medium, healer, and author.
Thank you, Lisa Ann. And my name is Andrew Jones. I'm a stoker of souls, and this simply means I help to put a fire within you to increase the inner passion to help you find the drive and purpose that you were brought here to accomplish this lifetime. I have studied Reiki, quantum touch, and have created my own successful, powerful healing technique. I am climbing the ranks of psychic ability, especially since hanging with these two amazing individuals. I am author and creator of my new book, Soul Purpose, and the 12 levels of manifesting, meditation cards being released soon. Come listen to Your Life Starts Today podcast. We talk about everything and anything pertaining to you getting a happy and fulfilled life of your dreams. Visit our site and subscribe today at www.yourlifestartstoday.com. Click on the podcast link and simply subscribe. Tune in each week to hear the latest show. Plus, do not miss the Your Life Starts Today seminar, March 16th, with psychic Lisa Ann, Johnny Angel, and Andrew Jones at the Courtyard Marriott in Middletown, New York, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m.